you were at sea. I just wanna say that I feel that our love is real. Maybe we should hurry up and seal the deal. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare, and I wanna take you there. I would give it all away to do it all again. Make our love a story that would never end. Never thought I'd feel so alive, looking in your eyes. I just wanna love you till the day I die. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare, and I wanna take you there. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause your love like
Hello, hello everyone from very hot and dry Ashland, Oregon. I was just telling our guest tonight that it is 100 degrees. My phone was blowing up today with heat warnings, which is a rarity here in the Pacific Northwest, and none of us know how to handle it. So we're all just melting and miserable. I'm drinking my liquid IV. I'm hydrating like crazy, and really I have no complaints. First of all, my office is in the basement, so it stays pretty cool anyway, and it's only gonna last for 2 days. But Marty, I am curious about hot, humid, and dry Tampa. I think of dry and humid as the opposite, but maybe that means rain. Maybe you mean no rain. Angela, don't you love that song? I love that song so much. We started with that song last year when we did our first cozy collaboration, and then we were doing some other stuff, and I asked my husband, aka the tech guy, to bring it back. But here is a super secret fact. Before we rearranged my office a week or so ago, the tech guy was sitting next to me, but now he's sitting over there. So I noticed while we were waiting for the live to start and while the song was playing that you think that I'm bopping along. So is the tech guy. Next time I'm going to get video of him singing along. Sing, sing, sing. I know, Anna, it's terrible. You typically hit hundreds later this month and humid. I should not complain because we don't have the humidity, and 100 is rare here. Maybe for a couple days in July, but it's super rare for June. So that's my thing. Marty, we all need rain. I know. We had rain like a week ago, and I was literally ready to go outside in the streets and like do my own little version of a rain dance, but I digress. Yeah, there's a lot of head bobbing going on, and it's not just me. I have proof now. He can't see me around the camera. Karen, Texas is so hot. The humidity can be sliced with a knife. Oh, I got to make a note on that. That's a great line for a book. Jules could say that at some point. I am so excited for my guest tonight. I wanted to give a little introduction to my guest and the reason for inviting her on the show, the live, because I think there's this whole bookish world that when I was growing up certainly didn't exist in this space. Like, my bookish connections were at the library, at school, perhaps with friends who we were reading the same book. But over the last 10 years, maybe we'll say, but really 5, there is this entire bookish community that has blossomed on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok now, obviously here on Facebook too. And as a writer, I just think it's such a gift. And as a reader, it is a super, super gift. It's also a problem because I can't even begin to tell you how large my TBR stack is because of people like my guest tonight. Because I look at their beautiful pages and their beautiful books that they're sharing and talking about. And I am like, I need that book now too. I need that book now too. And I never have time to read them all. I just started Midnight at the Library, which my dear friend sent me for my birthday by Matt Haig. And I've loved all of his other stuff, How to Stop Time. But I've seen that book on Instagram for like months now, and I haven't had time to get it to it. So it's slightly problematic, but I always think that books are a good problem to have. And I just think it's amazing the connections that are made through books and this crazy medium that we all engage in now. So on that note, my guest tonight is Spencer from Intentionally Bookish. And I have oogled over her feed forever. She just has such an eye, not only just for, there she is. You're going to meet her in a minute. She has such an eye for styling. And I actually shared this today in my post, which is that because I deal in words and words are my medium, I don't always have that visual element. Fortunately, I have a tech guy and a kid in my life who are more prone that way. But how do you just take a book on a blanket like that and make it look so beautiful? Like, it's amazing to me. Sue, are you loving Midnight at the Library? I'm only a third of the way in, so no spoilers. But Karen, you loved it too? Yay! I know. I'm fully in. How to Stop Time. If you haven't read that one by him, that came out a few years ago. That's like one of my favorite books of all time. Karen, don't you love Spencer's? Yeah. And you never leave the library with less than 12 books. Yeah. So I feel like all of Bookstagram is now my library. This is great because this is a good friend of mine, Emmeline Duncan, whose new book, Fresh Brewed Murder, just came out like a month or so ago, and it's set in Portland, and it features coffee. So I'm totally down for that. Yeah, I mean, just look at that lens of the book open and the coffee, and I just want to like sink into that scene. But yeah, because I think I don't have this visual ability, it's even more important for me to have people like Intentionally Bookish and Spencer in my world so I can go and inhabit theirs for a little while. Also, who's read the Juliet Blackwell series? So phenomenal. And fall, Bookish and Fall. I want to talk to her about what seasons are her favorite. And of course, you have to have a dog. The guest list has also been on my TBR stack for a while, so I need to talk about that. Lenny, you have your notepad ready to take down titles for tonight, right? I know. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes there's a misconception about writers in terms of being readers. Writers are readers first and foremost. So most of my time that I spend online, unless I'm, actually chatting with one of you, is building books for my own stack. It's a problem. It's a serious problem. Arsenic and Adobo. This is another great cozy that just released like a month or so ago that's been all over. And it is on my TBR stack as well. And you've got the bookish plants and food. We have to talk about how you pair books with food. So great. There she is, Spencer. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. And I don't know if you saw, but everybody already has their list of, books that they are going to get from you tonight. So now the pressure's really on.
Oh, Yeah, it really is. And it's funny that you say that because I actually just was quickly taking notes about the Midnight at the Library book that you referenced because I haven't heard of that and now I have to add it to my TBR. So it's a give take.
I know, it's mutual, right? Okay, well, for starters, just tell us a little bit about Intentionally Bookish and how you got started and the experience of that.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel and an Instagram, both by the same name of Intentionally Bookish that I started. Oh goodness, it's been over a year now. I feel maybe almost 2 years. 2021 or 2020 was so crazy. It
Right.
seems like it went by in a blur. So I'm getting all of my dates mixed up. But anyway, I had been obviously a reader all my life, and it was actually my husband who helped me kind of stumble into the book world on YouTube. I had no idea that that kind of niche ever existed. He would actually just kind of go on to look up videos that were actually related to travel because that's something that we enjoy doing together. And he just asked me if I would ever look up anything or where I get my book recommendations from. And at the time, my only answer would really be Goodreads, which is, kind of our Google. And
Right.
so um, so I don't even know what I ended up searching for first, but I came across people talking about books on YouTube. And I mean, honestly, it was down Alice's rabbit hole after that because I realized that it was such a large thing. And then came soon after that. And so I decided to kind of dive in headfirst into both social media channels at the same time. I don't know if that was necessarily the smartest because I hadn't managed to capture just one yet, but here we are, a TBR that is hundreds of books longer over a year later and still going strong.
But it's books, so there's never a problem if it's too many books, right?
Very true. Very true. I don't even think there's such thing as too many books. It's just an infinite list, really.
I have a good friend whose quote in her email signature file is, it's not hoarding if it's books.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Right? Yeah.
That's a totally separate topic. Books or furniture at that point.
Right. Lynn Marie says her TBR is currently 1,250 books.
Wow.
Okay, Lynn, wow. Spencer, do you track your TBR? I don't really in terms of number.
I track in a couple of different places. I do still kind of use Goodreads if I'm being organized, but I would be lying if I say I didn't have like sticky notes in my planners of random
I was just
books.
gonna say,
Yeah, exactly. Or just random notes on my phone. It really just depends on where and how I hear about the book. But I've got lists everywhere, and I don't know if it's up to 1,200 because I do kind of go through and purge my TBR. That's only so that I don't get overwhelmed. I have to trick my brain into thinking I can actually read all of the books that I want to in this lifetime. But yeah, I mean, I love a long TBR.
okay, so there's also this trend of people at the end of the month do like their wrap up of how many books that they've read. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I do that as well. And I actually like it because I never thought about it before until I entered kind of the book world. But I do actually like that because it gives me a chance to reflect another time, or rather once again, about the books that I read. I read a lot, and my problem is that even if I love a book, I don't sit with it long. More often than not, I'll just breeze into the next book and just get caught up in that world. But at the end of the month, if I have to think about the books that I read previously, it gives me time to kind of reflect. And usually that's what gets me more excited about the book because I have to talk about it all over and I remember how great it was or maybe how not so great it is. So yeah, I actually really like the concept.
Yeah, it's fascinating for me because I too am a fast reader. And that's a bit of a blessing and a curse because then once the book is not in front of me, like I'll kind of remember big picture stuff, but I might not live with it. I love those words that you're not living with the book long enough. And I always think back to my first grade year, Mrs. Heller was my first grade teacher. We had these kites, and anytime you read a book, you got a kite, and she put it up around the room. And by the end of the year, I had like 100 kites around the room. And I just remember like it was such an amazing visual to go, oh my goodness, like I've read that many books. So it kind of, I think of the Wrapups and, you know, that in the same vein, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like the kite imagery actually. I think that is a lot more fun than just kind of a sheet of paper scribbled with notes.
Well,
But
you
yeah,
know.
it's definitely the same thing.
You got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
Okay, we have a question from Janita. Ellie and Spencer, do you prefer to read actual books or books online? Oh, that's a great question. I'll let you go with that, Spencer, first.
Okay, so books online, are we talking, I'm assuming we're talking ebooks versus physical books? And if
Yeah, I
so,
bet.
okay, yeah, honestly, if so, I love them both equally. That is a terrible answer because I cannot pick between them. And I'm actually going to toss a third one into the rink of audiobooks.
I was just going to say, what about audio? Yeah.
I juggle them all at the same time. And it's really interesting because I cannot, or rather, a while back, I was not able to read more than one book at a time just because I have to really focus on whatever world that I'm in. But I learned soon that if it's in a different medium, I'm able to juggle. And so usually I'll have one audiobook that I'm listening to, and then one book that I'm looking at, whether it is digital or physical or print that I can read at the same time. So honestly, my kind of cheating answer is whatever I have on hand at the time is my favorite.
I think that's fair. That's not cheating. I can read nonfiction. Like I'll usually have a nonfiction book going and fiction. But I think because then I'm also writing, it's hard to do more than that for me. And
Yep.
I still prefer physical books. I'm old school that way. But I mean, I have been known to take a Kindle with me on vacation or borrow my husband's Nook and that kind of thing. Marty says, I stocked up on books when the pandemic began. One of your major worries was you would run out of books. Yeah, totally.
Oh,
Right?
for sure.
That is a real fear that I think many of us had.
Yes, definitely.
Anna Louise says, I do an audiobook, physical book, and ebook always at the same time. Yeah. So,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm actually, now that you mentioned it, I do similar to what you do, which is not only do I have a different format going, but they have to be different genres as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if I'm listening to a cozy, then I'll have to read like a suspense or a romance or something. Just, it's easier for me to keep them separate that way.
That absolutely makes sense. So tell me, what's been the most surprising thing about entering into this bookish community?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. Surprising. I'm gonna have to say it's probably going to be, well, there's two answers for that. The one is just how friendly everyone is, because as we all know, reading is a very insular kind of personal thing that you do by yourself. It can get very lonely because you're reading by yourself.
Right.
And once you enter a space when you talk about books and you get those people who read by themselves talking about books, it's almost as if everybody just kind of lights up and they want to share their favorites and recommend you their favorites. And so next thing you know, you just have this group of strangers who you've connected with based on your favorite thing, which is books. And so it's really just been surprising how welcoming the community has been. And the reason that I say surprising is I think that social media has a tendency to get a bad rap, just with people kind of hiding behind their screens and giving their opinion that might not be so nice all the time. But, not to say that those situations don't happen, but from what I've seen in the book community, it's been the complete opposite. Everybody is so welcoming and want to tell you about their favorite book. And it's really just really fun. And I'd say the second thing, just kind of to piggyback off of that, and it's totally different, but I learned something about myself, which is that I am very easily influenced. And so
me too. Yes, right? Yeah.
it does not take much for me to see someone's photo or hear them talk about something.
Sold.
And Yeah, exactly. And I don't even mean just adding it to my TBR. That's harmless. That's free to do. But I have one click bought so many books based on what so and so has said, and I don't regret it.
Yeah.
Don't regret it.
I can blame you for that for my own self. So, and they've all been great.
Glad
So
to be
thank you.
contributing to the cause, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Okay, so let's chat a little bit about how you set up your aesthetic. Like how do you approach even taking a picture? And is there pressure in that then, being on kind of the other end of, do you feel like, oh gosh, like I need this to look a certain way?
Yeah, so this is probably going to be a terrible bookstagram answer, but I don't feel any pressure.
Good.
I
No, I think
told
that's great.
myself I told myself kind of when I entered this space that I would make sure that I keep it for fun. Reading is like my number one hobby, and anything that I do with books, I don't want it to kind of slide into that um, being peer pressured or forced to do something. So usually I'll take photos when I'm feeling really inspired, either one at a time or a group of them. And the aesthetic really kind of depends on a couple of things. So the books, the temperature, sometimes I'll try and do themes like we saw with the coffee. Obviously, the book is about coffee, and I as a book lover and coffee drinker, had a can of beans. And then other times, I actually have a folder in Instagram of kind of like my favorite photos from other people, and I
Oh,
use that for
smart.
inspiration, honestly,
Yeah.
because there's so. I mean, I am such a novice because I've seen people who've taken beautiful photos, and even if I could never hit it exactly like they have, at least seeing their photo kind of gives me inspiration. And I don't do it exactly like them because I don't have the same props, but I end up coming up with something on my own just based off of looking at their photos.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that really appeals to me about what you're putting out there is there's such authenticity that comes through in what you're sharing. Because, I have followed a few bookstagrammers who then it just feels like it. I don't know how you can tell in a photo, but sometimes it feels forced, and yours
Yeah.
doesn't. So that makes sense if you're approaching it from a place of joy and wanting to make sure that comes through.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I will say the one thing that kind of doing this has made me do in my personal life, I'm never without a book anyway, just because I can't dare be somewhere without something to read. But more than ever, I will make sure that I am bringing along, a physical book or my Kindle somewhere in the off chance that I can take a photo and take advantage of the scenario. Like the book that you showed that was taken, on the beach blanket, that was actually on a vacation my husband and I went to the beach. And I brought a book to read, but I also brought four more books to take photos with because
Yes.
why not?
Yeah.
And so, I'm a little opportunistic that way when it comes to taking photos. And I think another thing that I have done, and again, I have to kind of give my husband credit for this, is that I also kind of get my inspiration from photos that are not bookish. So, travel photos or just photos of people doing things that aren't related to books, to find a way to incorporate books into that, I think is also fun. Because, like you said, it feels authentic, or at least it's kind of a change of pace from just, your gorgeous library stack.
Right. So, how much time, because this is a hobby for you, right? How much time do you think you spend like on that piece of it as outside of the reading? Because obviously you're reading just a
Right,
ton, but then there's
right.
this whole other element to the
Yeah.
shares.
Yeah. Oh, so it really does fluctuate. I will be honest, I'm probably not as consistent as others are because I know some people post twice a day, every day, and that's amazing. But for me, it really depends. Again, I sometimes will do batches of, I'm feeling very inspired and I've got a bunch of ideas, and it's sunny outside, so I want to kind of take a bunch of photos outside. But then other times, I'll literally be kind of reading a book or about to start a book, and I will kind of incorporate the photo taking process into my reading it. So for example, I posted a photo, I believe, right before this weekend, and it was on my Kindle of this book that I was about to read. And so once I had chosen that I was going to read it, I'm like, hey, let me just take a quick photo really quick. And that's also another thing. So I mean, it's not as much time as I probably could dedicate to it, but at the same time, maybe an hour or maybe a couple of hours, because I mean, I'm sure you all can tell looking at the photos, they have a edited look to them. Our world isn't exactly as pink as maybe my feed looks.
I
So
know,
I
right?
did take, I did
So
take some
pink.
time to edit them. Yeah, but I try not to spend too much time because really at the end of the day, I want to read.
Yeah, and like, does it ever feel like a chore then too versus?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I took a little bit of a break,
Yeah.
and every now and then I'll go every other day, and that's just because life gets in the way. It's never felt to where it's a burden, but I know, when I took an unintentional hiatus, it happened to be during the holidays, and my focus was really just like spending time with my family. So I was conscientious not to just be on my phone that much. And it
Yeah.
just so happened that I wasn't posting. And so when I came back, I was excited because I hadn't done it in a while. So it kind of ebbs and flows. And I think the fact that it's natural has kept me going so long, in my own kind of consistent way. Again, not every day, but in a way that's consistent for me to where I'm still chugging along again over a year, almost 2 years later, which is a big deal for somebody like me who will pick up a hobby and drop it in like 10 minutes.
No, it's just so fascinating to me because the story that I tell myself about technology is it's not necessarily my thing. I've never gotten hooked into like video games or anything like that. But I too, like over the holidays or, when I would normally not have my phone, I'm like, oh, but I might miss like a book post, not about my own books, just about like,
Yeah,
I don't. So
yeah.
like FOMO is real in the book world
Oh,
too.
for sure. And it's so funny that you say that because there have been times where I may not have the inspiration to post, but I'm still looking at what everybody else is doing because Lord help me if I'm not in the know about the
Right.
latest book because
I
I
need
have
to know
to
what just came out.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to know, how do you decide what books to read?
Oh my goodness. I am 1000% a mood reader.
Uh-huh.
And that is my downfall because I cannot keep a TBR to save my life, as in like a planned TBR. I
Right,
obviously have a
right,
stack
yeah.
of books I want to get to, but yes, I'm a mood reader to the point to where I will be in the middle of reading one book and I will have another book that I have heard about or I'm excited to read next, and I have it on my bedside. And by the time I finish the current book, I'm like, maybe something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the only thing that ever really dictates my reading is the season. I am a seasonal reader. I don't know. I'm guessing that's a form of TBR. For example, I know we were talking earlier. I'm trying to read a lot of summery books just because that's the vibe that we're in. Needless to say, Christmas time, I want all of those kind of holiday themed books. But beyond that, it really is just a luck of the draw. And if I happen to pick up a book that's new, great, that's wonderful. But if I happen to see something on someone's post or come across an Amazon Kindle deal, I mean, my mood it fluctuates. There's no telling what she'll decide on next.
It's like, ooh, squirrel. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's important to embrace the mood as a reader because then you don't feel the pressure in terms of, oh, I have to read this next or something, which takes me to my
Mhm.
next question, which is, how do you feel about not finishing a book? Do you have a DNF?
I I do. I do.
Yeah,
And I've always been unapologetically a DNFer.
me too. Yeah.
Just because I feel like life is way too short and our TBRs are way too long to kind of stick with a book. I don't know if it was just something that I picked up on because I rebelled against being forced to read certain books in schools. But, again, reading is supposed to be such an enjoyable form of escapism that forcing yourself to read something that you're not enjoying it's torture, and that's different than reading a book and kind of wanting to see where it turns out and it not living up to your expectations. But I'll DNF a book for any number of reasons, and I think that's what makes it an easier pill to swallow, because I think the term DNF gets such a bad rap because people think it's because you're not liking it. But more often than not, I've DNF books just because I wasn't in the mood, and it just wouldn't be fair to the book for me to carry on if I know that there's a possibility that I would actually enjoy it later and in kind of a different mindset or a different season. And so that's usually why I end up kind of putting a book down. I consider it just like I'll save it for later rather than I never want to see this book again. It makes it a little easier to swallow.
Yes. Lenny says that's why you have to take so many on vacation. Who knows what mood I'll be in? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, just to kind of take it back, that beach vacation that I went on with my husband, I packed a contemporary romance, a couple of cozies, and a thriller. And wouldn't you know it, the one that I landed on was the dark thriller that totally went against the beachy theme.
Right.
You just never know what you're going to be in the mood for.
Yeah, totally. Jackie wants to know, how long do you give a book? 50 pages, 100 pages? Do you have a cutoff point?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't have a cutoff point. I really think it'll come down to the reason why I DNF it. Because, for example, if I start listening to an audiobook, the narrator really affects my reading experience. I know some people, like my husband, he can listen to something where the narrator is so droll and still somehow find the book pleasurable. I'm not like that. So if I pick up a book and I start listening and the narrators maybe just, I'm not jibing with them, I will most likely turn it off after probably just a chapter. And at that point, resolve to just pick it up later after I've given it some time, but in physical form. But when it comes to actual books, I would say I don't think I ever get further than 50 pages. But then again, I've read some books where I have put it down because I wasn't enjoying it and I'm 70% in. So you would think it makes sense to stick it out, but I'm like, no, I can't do it to myself. So it really just depends.
I just had that experience with a book that I was like 220 pages in of a 365 page book, and I just was not, we weren't connecting. And I say that all the time from the lens of being a writer too. I don't want someone to like slog through one of my books and hate it. Like just put it aside. You're so right. Life is too short. We all have big stacks. And there's so much that goes into that. I like that you mentioned, like I try to set it aside too. And I would never share out from a writer's perspective if I didn't enjoy a book, because I always know that there's probably somebody who's going to love that book, or that it just didn't match my mood at that point in time. I had a book that I set aside twice over the course of like 3 or 4 years. And then 4 years later, I came back to, and I was like, why did I not love this book? I mean, so you never know, but
yeah, exactly.
Angela says you completely agree. Yeah. You have to have a good narrator for an audiobook. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. It makes a huge difference. And I've actually have kind of called out, or I try to make an effort when I talk about books on my channel to mention the ones that I listen to on audiobook, because I think that, especially for the most part in series, they tend to stick with the same narrator. It's so important to call out if it has a fantastic narrator, because to me, that makes a huge difference when kind of carrying on with the series. And I know people will listen to audiobooks as much as I do. And so to kind of share that tidbit of information, I think makes a huge difference, because at least you'll know you have the option of listening to it on audiobook and kind of imagining the character that way, or reading it however you decide to take it in.
Yeah, that's so true. Helen wants to know if you don't finish the book, do you flip to see how it ends?
I don't, because there's
I don't
always
either.
that optimistic part in me to where I'm like, oh yeah, future me might want to know, and I wouldn't dare spoil it for her.
Yeah, right? I know.
So, and if I decide that I'm never going to pick it up, then I it's almost like I don't want to cheat. I have kind of given up or forfeited knowing what happens at the end, at least from reading it myself. If somebody tells me, then that's fine. But if I really don't want it, then I don't care about the ending. It's not like it's going to change my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, Diana says she does flip to the end to see how it ends. Yeah, I don't either. I'm the same. I feel like if I'm not invested in finishing it, I probably don't need to know how it ends. Fair. Yeah. Okay, so these are going to be some cutthroat questions.
Okay.
I would like to know what your thoughts are on bookmarks versus dog earing a page.
So I'm 100% bookmarks, but coincidentally, I don't own any official bookmarks. My bookmarks are usually in the form of Post-it notes, paint chip samples,
Yeah, right.
receipts, and I just can't dog ear, and I've tried to embrace kind of messing up my books because my husband will he knows the best way to get under my skin is to take a new book and break the spine in front of me because it physically pains me.
That's murder worthy for a future book, let me say.
I'm telling you. And so yeah, dog earring kind of goes into that same category. Though ironically, I love used books, so I like somebody else to do the dirty work. I just don't like to partake myself.
You need an accomplice in this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deniability.
Right. Well, Leanne, I'm with you. And receipts. I have a lot of bookmarks, but somehow I always end up going with, like you're saying, like the paint swatches. And we just this last weekend, when we go out for walks, a lot of times the tech guy will put a backpack on and we'll stuff it with books to pass on at little free libraries. And inevitably I'll be like, oh no, there's probably like receipts with my name or something on here. I got to go through them. Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing. You got to check the books before you give them away.
Yeah. I love the paint sample. Yes. Yes. Right. Angela, she knows.
Yay. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like the best way to get your free bookmarks in. So then you don't have to necessarily buy any, though I'm always tempted. And I learned the hard way. As much as I love those really beautiful, elegantly crafted bookmarks, I inevitably lose them or mess them up. And it's just a travesty.
Right. My mom worked at a library and someone returned a book with a piece of raw bacon. What? Gretchen? Gross.
That's amazing. I can only imagine their breakfast when they come around and they're like, I'm pretty sure I'm short an extra piece and I have no idea what happened to it.
That's right. Okay, my next question is what is the best drink to pair with a book? I think I know the answer.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is a hard question.
I know.
Because
I
it
told
really
you.
depends on the book.
Hard hitting.
And it depends on the season.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm only going to go with one answer, I'm going to have to say tea. Only because I think it's so versatile. As much as I want to say coffee, because I love coffee, if I'm reading in the middle of the night, we both know I don't need a cup of coffee
Yeah.
at midnight while I'm reading. So I'll go with tea. It's the most varied and it works throughout all the seasons.
That's safe. Yeah, I feel that. What about food? Do you have a favorite food pairing, or are you like, I can't read next to the book because I might accidentally stick in some raw bacon?
No. I can eat all the way 100%. And I actually, if I know that the book that I'm reading will have some kind of sweets involved, like a certain author I know who I won't name, who has like, a shop owner who owns a bakery. I cannot read the book without something sweet. I tend to have more of a sweet tooth when I'm reading. And so usually it's something kind of like small that I can at least eat a dozen of without feeling too guilty. So lately, my latest obsession has been those mini Reese's cups. the
Ooh.
little tiny Halloween candy size.
Yeah.
So
The tech guy's
those are
giving you 2
easy.
thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Uh-huh.
he knows. Yeah, those are delicious. You got your sweet and salty combo. So those are probably my favorite. But any kind of small pieced snack is my go-to.
You need like a bite-sized snack with a book.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Though I
that's
mean, I
fair.
will eat a sandwich when I'm reading a book as well. Don't get me wrong.
Lynn says tea or anything with alcohol. Higher than 8%. I'm Canadian. No apologies.
Well, you need alcohol to stay warm up there. I totally get it, Lynn.
Oh, that's great. Susan says chocolate covered almonds. That's the same thing. It's like, that goes with the bite size. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Sloan makes you want a beer, Jackie. Yeah, Sloan's problematic for me too, especially if I'm working on that series in the morning. I was right in the morning, and then I do other stuff in the afternoon. So if I'm writing at like 10 o'clock and trying to describe a scene from that series, I'm like, oh, I should probably go taste. Oh no, it's 10 o'clock. Don't do that. Okay, let's switch gears to books a little bit again in terms of, is there a book that you think has like made the most lasting impression on you?
Oh my goodness. These
I
are
know.
hard-hitting questions. It's
I
like you're
know.
the Barbara Walters of
I
bookish
am.
videos.
No.
So
I should have, can I hand you tissues? I'm going to make you cry next. Like what?
I know.
Yeah.
So are we talking just cozies? Are we talking any
No, we're
specific
just talking
genre?
books. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, you know what? I'm actually going to say that the most recent book that I read that I could not stop talking about for the longest time was Emily Henry's Beach Read. That is I guess, a contemporary romance. It came out last year.
I'm dying to read it.
Did you read it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did you love it? I'm scared to ask.
I loved it. I read it at Christmas. Loved it so much. And the tech guy's like, who bought it for you? My husband bought it for me. And I have not read The People We Meet on Vacation yet, her new one.
I haven't read that one either.
Okay.
And I'm scared because her last book, Beach Read, I mean, I don't want to take up the rest of your video talking about it, but
we could.
I can talk about that book for hours.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. I talked about how I read it kind of through the night. I don't read into the night as much as I used to. I'm too old for that. But this particular book, it was literally 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't stop reading. And I got to this one part that made me just cry. I was sobbing and kind of like flipping the pages through like blurry vision. Oh my goodness. It was fantastic. So definitely going to have to go with that one.
That's a good one. It's a gem of a book. Yeah. If you like romance and I mean, I don't know how to categorize it because it doesn't officially feel like, what we think of. Is it contemporary romance?
Yeah.
Rom-com?
I think it was slated, I think, as contemporary romance, I would say, and I hate categorizing books into one.
I know. Thing. Just read it. You'll love it.
Yeah, exactly. It's smart. It's well written. Yes, it deals with issues and romance, but at the same time, it's so much more than that. So yeah, read it.
And it's a fast read. I read it in like 2 days.
Yeah, it will hook you in. It really will. But there's a lot of emotional depth to it as well. So it's not just, fluff. It's very substantial and in the best kind of way.
I totally agree. Okay, what are you looking forward to for the summer? Do you have any books that are like top of your TBR at this point, unless your mood changes?
Yeah. Other than the next book in Emily Henry's lineup, The People We Meet on Vacation, that's probably my number one most anticipated. But I actually am the book that I'm looking forward to reading is one that I've already started the series of, and that's the Seaside Cafe series. And it's a cozy mystery series by Bree Baker. And I actually just finished the first book. I saw someone post on Instagram, and of course I was influenced, but that so far has been the quintessential summertime read because it takes place on this coastal town, and the amateur sleuth main character owns like an iced tea shop. And I mean, iced tea in the South go hand in hand like best friends. So of course, for me, I was all about that. So I plan on kind of continuing that series to carry me through the summer. And I think that there's another series by Tanya. I'm terrible with pronouncing her last name. Naps, I
Oh,
believe,
right.
but it's
Yeah.
her. Yeah, okay, great. It's her Campers and Criminals series as well, and so that deals with a lot of like outdoorsy, kind of
Perfect.
RVing topic. And I'm like, oh yeah, that too is summer. So those two are enough to kind of keep me going again until my mood switches to something
Right.
else.
I love it. Now, you talked a little bit about like if you go to a used bookstore and you score like an old series, how do you feel about like diving into a series that is older or, maybe from 10 or 15 years ago?
I love it. I actually prefer older backlist books because I find that there's less pressure. There are less people talking about it, which means that I can form my own opinion. And it's
Yeah.
more of an organic way to kind of discover a book and know for sure that you like it. Because let's be honest, I love being influenced by my friends and what they're reading, but oftentimes if they gush about it, and I also love it, part of me is wondering, do I love it because it was kind of built up and I'm kind of giving it that extra oomph or what? But
Yeah.
with used books or books that no one's talking about, you're not really getting that kind of pressure. And so books that, whether they're 5 years old, 10, 15 years old, I love that. And most of the time, I don't actually notice the year that the books are printed. I can tell usually if they're old because I hadn't heard of them. But other than that, if it catches my eye in a used bookstore, I'm all about it.
Well, and it's awesome if you find something with a backlist then because there's plenty to read too. So you don't
Oh,
have to
yes,
wait
that is
like,
my
a year.
absolute favorite thing is coming across a book series that's new to me that has an epic backlist because I will just settle on in,
Let's
get
go.
ready to be with them.
Lynn says, not a mystery cozy, but find How Not to Die Alone for fans of Doctor Who. Oh, okay.
Oh, I am a fan
Very
of
good.
Doctor Who.
Yeah. See, this is what happens then. Our stack just keeps growing and growing. I love it. Oh my gosh, Spencer, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's so fun for me to
Thank you
like
so
flip
much
the
for
tables and get
having
to hear
me.
what it's like to be on the other side of.
Yes, yeah, hopefully exciting, not too boring. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I really just love any way that I can share books with people, be it through photos or videos, because it ends up opening up dialogue like this and gives me more reason to talk about books and books to add to my TBR. And I definitely have a handful thanks to you and your viewers.
So people can find you on Instagram and YouTube
Yes.
as Intentionally Bookish,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
And if you go find Spencer on either of those channels, your TBR stack is going to grow a lot for the summer, but we've already established
You're
that's
welcome.
it's not a problem. It's okay.
We
It's
give you
all good.
permission. Add to that TBR.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the tech guy says he will put links to both of your Instagram and
Oh,
YouTube
yay.
once this is
Thanks,
over.
tech
We'll
guy.
post it again.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
I know. Yay! All right. Well, as always, thank you again and happy reading.
Happy reading. Got to cover the camera.
High five. And then for everyone else, in terms of next week, I got to get to our little schedule. Next week, I'm taking off. We're going to have a prep week to get ready for the one night mystery brainstorming sesh that we're going to do together on June 15th. So save the date for that because I need all of your ideas. And then on June 22nd, we're going to write one night of a cozy together again. It could be, oh, there it is. It could be crazy. I don't know. We never know how it's going to work out. And then on June 29th is the big Mocha She Wrote launch party. So be sure to save the date. It's going to be huge. That's the tech guy saying it. The tech guy's already working on so many fun giveaways and bring a friend, grab a mocha. It'll be 5:30, so you could have, I'm trying to think of a beer and a coffee combination, but I'm not really sure that works. Yeah, a chocolate stout, that's kind of heavy. Coffee stout, that's still a little heavy for, summer, but whatever. Yay, Sue, I'm so glad you enjoyed meeting Spencer. She's the best. So awesome. Lenny, bring your ideas because we're going to whip up a mystery in one night. All right. On that note, I will see you all back here in 2 weeks. Same time, same bat channel. And in the meantime, happy reading.